Initial sounds. How to say the initial sounds for parents and teachers. Brought to you in association with Reading Made Simple, a totally free, synthetic, systematic phonic reading and spelling programme for all ages and abilities, including special needs. It is very important that children are taught right from the start to pronounce the initial sounds correctly. This short video will help you to learn them for yourself before you start to teach them to your child. To make a sound, we use our breath, lips, tongue, and teeth together. As you say each sound, think about the position of your tongue, lips, and teeth. Look in a mirror and see how these three move into the position needed to make the correct sound. Here is the letter A, and it stands for the sound A, as heard in the word apple. A says A. This is the letter B, and it stands for the sound B, as heard in the word ball. B says B. This is the letter C, and it stands for the sound K, as heard in the word cat. C says K. Here is the letter D, standing for the sound D, as heard in the word dog. D says D. Here is the letter E, standing for the sound E, as heard in the word egg. E says E. Here is the letter F, standing for the sound F, as heard in the word fish. F says F. Here is the letter G, standing for the sound G, as heard in the word gate. G says G. This is the letter H, and it stands for the sound H. H. Just a breath, as in the word horse. H says H. Here is I, making the sound I. I for ink, not I for ice cream. Be very careful of any word books or alphabet books that you might buy, for it is on this letter that many make a mistake. I is not for ice cream. It needs to be a word that starts with a pure sound I. Ink, igloo, indigo, in, and so on. Here is J, standing for the sound J. J for jelly. J says J. Here is K, standing for the sound K, as in kangaroo. K says K. Here is the letter L, and it stands for the sound L, as heard in the word lemon. L is made by pressing the tongue against the roof of the mouth. L. L says L. The letter M stands for the sound M. M, as heard in the word mouse. M says M. Here is the letter N, and it stands for the sound N, as in nose. It's a nasal sound, and I get children to touch their nose to help them to remember that N goes through the nose. N for nose. N says N. The letter O stands for the sound O for octopus. O says O. Here is the letter P, standing for the sound P. P. But don't try not to be tempted to put the after it. P. It's explosive like B, B, but B is a harder sound than P. Practice those two one after the other and hear the difference. Feel the difference indeed. B, p, b, p. Same position of the mouth. P for panda. P says p. Here is Q standing for the sound qu. Qu for queen. However, we must qualify this sound as it never comes on its own. It is always accompanied by the letter U. Q and U actually are the ones that together make the sound qu, and we will be teaching that as we move through the programme. R stands for the sound R for rabbit. Rabbit. R says R. Here is the letter S, and it stands for the sound S, as heard in the word sun. S says S. Here is the letter T, and it stands for the sound T, as heard in the word teddy. Again, be careful not to put the sound after T. It is just that little tiny sound T. It's very similar to the sound D. D is a harder sound, but the position of the mouth is the same. Practice D, T, D, T, D, T, and feel the difference. Have your child to do the same. T says T. Here is the letter U standing for the sound A. A for umbrella and up. U says A. Here is the letter V, and it stands for the sound V, as for violin. Now, just as we've had for P and T, we have a sound here that is very similar to another sound, F. So we have V, which is the harder sound, and F, which is the softer sound. But the mouth and the lips and the tongue and the teeth are all in the same position to make those two sounds. Again, have your child practice. F, v, f, v. It soon becomes very clear how the voice behind the v makes it harder. V. V says v for violin. Here is the letter W standing for the sound w, w, a position of the lips that we find as we say the word watch. If you start to say the sound and then stop, you'll have the sound watch. W says for watch. Here is the letter X standing for the sound x. Rarely at the beginning of a word, but often heard at the end of a word like fox and box. X stands for the sound x. Here is the letter Y standing for the sound y, y. It's sometimes helpful to put a very slight y at the end, but like w, it is a position of the mouth, as you find when you say the word yo-yo. Start to say it y, and that's the sound y. So if your child has to put a slight y on the end, then allow that, as for w, but make it as small as you possibly can. Y says y, y. Here is the letter Z standing for the sound z. Z for zebra. Z says z. Children differ as to the length of time taken to learn these 26 sounds. Please do not be tempted to rush this stage, as it is foundational to future success in reading. Mistakes made here can hold a child back a long time, and many teachers rush on too quickly before these sounds are securely known. Just a little thought about letter names. Children need in time to know both the letter names and the letter sounds, but the letter sounds are the most important for reading and spelling with phonics. I usually teach both, as I have done in this video, but I never refer to the names until I teach the vowel names in level 1. If a child can learn the letter names, it does help us to talk about letter combinations in level 1. For example, AR says R. Otherwise, I find that children will refer to it as ARA and then try and sound it out as ARA in words, which isn't correct. That's the only reason I teach them. There is also something to be said for being able to order the alphabet, which some children will be happy to do, and it will not affect their learning. For other children, the letter names may well interfere, but as long as I only teach them in this way and never refer to them again, it doesn't seem usually to cause any problems. I haven't as yet found it to do so. If you find your child trying to use the letter name, then I would just make sure that I myself wasn't talking about find me the letter A or something like that, which might be encouraging or confusing them. At the end, you must be guided by your child's response and do what is best for your child. If it causes a problem, leave it out. I never expect a child to say A says ah. Some do, many do, but many don't. And therefore, if a child is happy to supply the sound and I say A says and they say ah, B says and they say b, then I'm happy. Do not be in a rush to teach a child to blend. There is time enough for that later. Take great diligence to ensure that every child can quickly give the right sound for every letter and find the right letter for every given sound. Also make absolutely sure that every child can hear the initial sound of a given word. For more help, please see www.readingmadesimple.weebly.com.